Hey, friends, we've got a special, I wouldn't say a special announcement, more of an annoyance of stuff that we even have to address before we actually get into the episode that we've already recorded for you this week. But, you know, stuff comes up.
Yeah, and we just felt like we couldn't keep our mouths shut.
It happens.
Right? I mean, there's the quote by Albert Einstein. I wrote it down so that I could get it right. But it says, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything.
What has inspired this little special start to this week's episode?
Yes. So there's another podcast done by a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt and a UFC fighter. I'm not going to say its name. I don't want to give it that kind of visibility, I guess. But the fighter said some crazy stuff on the podcast. This is their podcast together. It ain't cool.
Yeah.
No one should give this man a platform. It's so full of so much hatred in so many different ways. It's just absolutely an insane statement. I can't even address how horrific that is and just ignorant it is.
Yeah.
What bothers me, in addition to that, because I recognize they are stupid people,
Yes,
and podcasts are easy to, get out there to the world, and, people listen to stupid things. But what bothers me is the jiu-jitsu black belt is actually someone who I would have considered a friend. I've known this man a very long time, more than a decade at least. And I don't have a lot of personal interaction with him, but we've trained together and, competed alongside each other, that kind of stuff. And his first statement that he put out was just so we know, so you guys know, I love everybody kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the backlash started coming. And what he then proceeded to say was basically, well, I disagreed with him on the podcast. I thought that was enough.
No.
It's not. It's not. That podcast aired. I'm going to tell you, if for one, if you and I were doing a podcast and you said something like that, I would be like, we're done here.
Yeah. Just get up and walk away.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. There's no common ground really at that point.
Yeah. And if I said something crazy like that, you wouldn't upload that. Right. So if you were the one in charge of uploading it, you wouldn't do that. If I were being interviewed in a podcast that is not mine, which isn't the case here, but if that were true and the person said something absolutely crazy, I would be like, this interview is over. Mm-hmm. And then I would post immediately what was said because I would want to be in control of the narrative coming out from that. And I would not allow them to twist what happened. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But instead they allowed this podcast to go up and they promoted this podcast, showing clips from it and stuff like that. It was the first one of this podcast. So they're trying to get a following with him saying this in the podcast. Mm-hmm. And so the black belt says in his quote unquote apology, he says, well, this guy says crazy stuff all the time. So I didn't think anything of it. Wow. And to me, that's one of the biggest problems here. Because that means you hear this on a regular basis and you're not calling it out. I'm done with that. I'm absolutely done with that. If that man would have said something anywhere remotely, even a smidgen of one of those parts of that in my gym, he would have been kicked out.
Yeah.
That'd have been it. Don't let the door hit you. Actually, go ahead and let the door hit you. I don't care. I just wouldn't have stood for it. And I think that's our biggest problem right now is continuously we are letting people get away with saying insane stuff on a regular basis. I'm going to admit I'm not. I'm calling people out. I'm holding people's feet to the fire. But we know coaches who are actively saying homophobic, transphobic, racist, misogynistic, gross stuff, and nobody is calling them out on it. They're more like, ha ha ha, he's just kidding. He doesn't really mean it. He does. He does mean it. Yeah. And I'm tired of, I'm just fed up with it. And I just had to call it out for what it is. Call your people out. Don't allow this crap to keep continuing. Don't allow it to fly under the radar anymore. Stop it. Say something. Speak up.
And I think with the caveat of your safety, number one, in mind.
Absolutely. But if you are not at a gym where you feel safe, get out. Because legit, as much as you love jiu-jitsu, if you are not safe at that gym, you've got to go. Even if there's not another place for you to do jiu-jitsu nearby, your life is basically in their hands, right? Yeah. Like, I would not roll with people that I don't feel safe with because there's so much trust in jiu-jitsu. So if you're at a gym where you don't feel like you can speak up, you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Speak up and be supported, because if you're not the, the ranking, the black belt or the coach or the owner, you've got to have that support behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard. Trust me. I absolutely know it's hard, but like somebody has to say something. So that's it. I just had to get on my little soapbox and speak out, because I just think it's gross that in the apology, he was like, well, I mean, he says stuff like that all the time. I didn't think anything of it.
Wow.
There you go, friends.
And now on to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yes, where we're going to talk about being assertive
versus being aggressive.
Exactly. I'm trying really hard to just be assertive right now and not aggressive.
You're doing great.
Also, you don't see me get mad much. I do not get angry very often. Like, it's not who I am. But this made me mad. It made me really mad.
Thank you for saying something.
Yes. Thank you for helping me have the space to say it, because Jen's in charge of all of the editing and the uploading and everything. So I'm just here to say words.
Are you being assertive or aggressive? We're going to talk about how this shows up on and off the mat. Welcome to Beauty and the Gi, the podcast about jiu-jitsu and so much more. I'm Jen Eads. I'm Jen Eads.
Who?
I'm Slim Shady. I'm Jen Eads, a blue belt full of curiosity and questions and a little chaos.
Always chaos. I'm AJ Klingerman, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Whoa. I'm going to take a drink of coffee. Guys, I've already said so many words today. Why can't I get this right? I'm AJ Klingerman, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, obsessed with jiu-jitsu.
I'm super excited for this conversation, because I think the question of not only being assertive versus being aggressive, but being perceived as being assertive versus being aggressive, I think we deal with that a lot as women, both on and off the mat.
Yeah. So this, starting with an on the mat portion, right?
Because it's a jiu-jitsu podcast?
Yeah, but it is about jiu-jitsu life and so much more.
That's
right. I don't know what's more than jiu-jitsu and life, but more.
Jiu-jitsu is life.
So yes, somebody asked about how to be more aggressive when they're competing. And this is definitely something I struggled with. I am not an aggressive person. Oftentimes, speaking of off the mat for a moment, we are taught to be complacent. I don't know, taught to be kind and what are the words for that?
Demure.
Oh, yes.
Not one to really raise a voice or call things out. Just kind of let things
go
slide.
with the flow.
Don't make a scene.
Yeah.
Don't make a scene, AJ.
Yeah. So being aggressive from the start is often hard for us, right? And so that transfers over into jiu-jitsu. And I really struggled with that. So I kept having my coaches tell me, you got to be more aggressive. You got to be more aggressive. And so I remember it was no-gi pans a decade or so ago. And I was like trying to get mad in the bullpen. And like, I'm just like staring at this girl and I'm like, I hate this girl. I hate this girl. I hate this girl. You know, like just trying to be so like,
who are you?
It was awful. It was awful. I'm just trying to be like, yeah, I'm mean and aggressive. And yeah.
You totally sold me on it.
Yeah. Right. Although mean. AJ's mean. If you,
I don't think I would want to.
It's very
push it
rare.
To that
it's
limit.
very rare, but
Yeah.
So I can tell you that's the worst I've ever performed in a tournament. I don't remember a thing. I don't have any idea what happened in those matches, except that I lost. And I was like, okay, that didn't work for me at all.
Yeah.
And I really struggled to figure out what did for some time. And then I realized it wasn't about being aggressive for me. Mm-hmm. It was about being assertive. It was about, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to take, right? Being like, this is my arm. This is my position. Mm-hmm. And being full of no.
Yes.
Those were the two things that like really helped me. But it wasn't being aggressive. To me, being aggressive meant being mean. And being assertive just meant getting the things that I wanted.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like the being full of no.
Yeah.
That
does seem like you would like that.
Yeah. It does seem like I would like that.
Let me describe this a little deeper. So my being full of no, like you try to grab my arm and I'm like, absolutely not. That's my arm. Or you try to sweep me and I'm like, not today, Satan. Like that's me the whole time I'm rolling. Like,
and you'll say that with a smile on your face.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, not today. I don't think so. Like it'll drive her so crazy because she'll be like, I just wanted to sweep you. But I'm like, so full of no that I would rather tap to a Kimura or something like that, right? Like I'm like, you will not sweep me. Oh, tap, dang it. She's like, I was just trying to sweep you. So it can go awry too. Uh-huh. I think that really helped me though with that mindset shift of doing what I wanted rather than being aggressive.
Well, and I feel like to me, aggressive feels more uncontrolled.
Yes.
That is chaos.
Uh-huh. Yep. It is more out of control. I will see somebody get like mad and feel like they have to be more aggressive in a round, and then never do they do better.
Right.
It happens a ton in kids class, right? They just feel like they just have to be more aggressive and like, and it's like, well, now you're just getting like tossed around because you're not thinking through the things. When you get into that mindset, you actually stop thinking as clearly, and it really doesn't serve you. Then what happens?
Oh, I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know.
I mean, really, that puts you in the downward spiral.
It does,
right?
And I have been working through this.
Yeah, honestly, you've been doing so much better about this. I would love to knock on wood if I had some close. But I don't think that this has been an issue for you, really, that I've noticed in months.
I think it's been better. And even today, during the round, when you were coaching against me.
Still holding a grudge.
It's okay. Because it really was, I think that kind of played into the, so I tapped and we reset. And in that reset, instead of being mad at myself, it was go after, what you want. You want a collar drag. Yep. Actually, I wanted to get in close enough to just do the February takedown.
Yeah.
But since I wasn't getting there, I'm like, okay, then I will get in close enough to get the collar drag. And I actually got it rather than just being mad at myself and getting taken down.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that I knew that you were coaching against me, I had to step up and be like, don't lose, keep it together.
Way to edit that on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Just keep it together. Think about what you want and then just go get it.
Yeah.
And I think it helped.
Yeah. So instead of getting
aggressive,
thank you,
Whitney.
You were assertive. With that said, I always say, like, you can't really teach aggressiveness, right? When I get, we're getting the new crop coming in of now we have a bunch of young ladies that have wrestled and, it's
what
it's
a
different,
gift for them.
Right? Oh, and so they are willing to be aggressive in a way that is controlled.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that if you're struggling with being aggressive, talking about assertiveness is a good way to change that, right? Mm-hmm. But you are coming into the time where we're going to see, especially women, be aggressive, which is fantastic. Like they
Yeah.
are just getting in there and going after what they want. And I'm hoping that, you know, that's part of the rising tide, right?
Yeah.
That like raises us all up and kind of gives us all permission to really go after what we want and go for the thing instead of feeling like we have to be mad in order to go for it.
Yeah. I usually need a little motivation to reach that next level of assertiveness.
All right. So does that mean that like you have to kind of get beat up a little bit?
I think so. So I feel like that's the next thing I need to, like, how about not getting beat up before you go after what you want? That'll be next level.
Yeah. And honestly, I do think if you were prepping for a tournament, that would fall into place a little more.
That's true.
Right? Because you're like, I want what I want first because I'm preparing for this.
Yes.
I rolled at a women's open mat recently with my friend Mish, and I hadn't rolled with her in a long time. And I was like, this girl is doing nothing. Like, she is not, you know, like, she just isn't coming after me. And that just isn't the Mish I've rolled with in the past. And then I tapped her and she came after me. And I was like, oh, now we're awake, huh? That's what you needed. All right, I'll tap you faster next time so we can actually get on with this. But, you know, like, then it's a much more fun roll, too.
Yeah, that's true.
When I think about being assertive or aggressive, however you want to go, it is going after what you want either way, right? And too often we react.
Oh, yeah.
So when we're not being assertive or aggressive, we're just being reactionary. And what if that's what you're both doing in the round?
Oh.
Then nothing is happening.
Right.
Right? You're both just kind of sitting there like, have you ever had guard or sat in someone's guard and you're both just like, that was just silence. So just looking around like, well, should I go for an arm bar? Should I go for a pass? No one's doing anything because no one is being assertive.
Yeah.
No one is being aggressive. That's not a fun round. A fun round is when you're just like back and forth and going after it. That's when jiu-jitsu's fun.
I will say my rounds were fun this morning.
Right?
They
yeah, they looked fun.
They were.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this off the mat then a little bit. How does that assertiveness versus aggressiveness, and I think more so even that perception of it, how do you see that play out?
Yeah. How do I say bitchy on the podcast without saying bitchy?
I think you just say it.
Shoot.
I think you just say it.
You know, I think oftentimes that's the problem is in the world when particularly women are trying to be more assertive or it comes off as aggressive, first of all, when they're trying to be assertive, whether it's aggression or not. And I think that it gets labeled as being bitchy.
Yeah. 100%. I don't think there's any way around that. I feel like that's just the world that we live in, and we're just going to have to be okay with that sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like to get what you want, I think sometimes you have to be willing to
Take the label.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not fair, right?
Right.
It's not. But if you can get to a place where you're like, I don't care, right? Which is hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
But just be like, you know what? This is what I want. I'm going to go after that. And if your ego can't handle it, because that's what's happening, right? If your ego can't handle the fact that, you know, I'm being assertive in what I want, that I'm setting boundaries, that I'm going after my goals, that's on you, not me. That says way more about you than it does me. And that doesn't mean that like I'm stepping on people to get to the top. It just means that I'm doing the things that it takes to be the version of successful that I want to be.
Yeah. And it sucks that sometimes we have to dial that down, I think. But it's also, it's playing the game. I feel like every situation is maybe a little bit different, and that's part of it is you just have to learn to navigate it, and some things are super nuanced, and you've got to know, I think, when to when to hold him or when to fold him. I will quote Kenny Rogers all day long. But no, when to really, to not back down.
Right. I think with that, I don't think that passive aggressive is the answer.
Oh, no.
I think passive aggressive will get you labeled more than anything, right? Like I think that being more assertive with what you want and don't be passive about that.
Yeah. I do think that's worse because that's just annoying.
Yeah.
I would much rather have somebody in my face and just being clear.
Right.
And then I know.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Then I know.
Yeah.
Don't make me guess.
Yes. Agreed.
I'm not a good mind reader.
Yeah.
Just ask Beth. Like, what?
I didn't realize you wanted me to do that.
Oh, it's not on my timeline. I see. Our timelines vary greatly.
I can imagine.
It happens.
Yeah.
But because we have had conversations and, expectations have been clearly established.
Yeah. Direct communication.
It's amazing. It's worked well for us.
Good.
I think part of that too, part of being assertive is not apologizing for everything. Like if you screw something up, by all means, own that. But the constant apologizing
Yeah.
for nothing.
My chiropractor, this is like a quick, easy example, always says, sorry you had to wait. And it's like, I walked in, I didn't have an appointment, right? I expected to wait. So instead, I keep trying to get him, because he's a good friend of mine, to say, thank you for waiting, right? Like, if you're apologizing, now I feel like you should have gotten me in sooner. If you thank me for waiting, it's like, yeah, I knew I was going to have to. Like, yeah, no problem. I just came in, I just walked in off the street. But when you're saying you're sorry, I feel like you did something wrong. And that's going to be kind of the color that I put on that, right? So as much as you can, try to think how you can thank somebody rather than apologize.
I like that.
I think it's really helpful.
Well, it's still an acknowledgement.
Exactly. Hey, I really appreciate you pointing that out to me instead of, oh, I'm so sorry I did that.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It's like about business stuff too.
That works for business and it works for your personal life. Thank you for giving me time to figure out what worked for my schedule so we could get together for lunch, or instead of like, sorry, I didn't text you back right away. Whatever that is. But I think showing, gratitude instead of apologizing really raises you up rather than pushes you down.
There's the off the mat tip for the week.
Excellent.
Way to work that in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very impressive. Is there anything else that you think of off the mat as far as assertiveness versus aggressiveness and how that's viewed?
I think this kind of goes on and off the mat. Know your goals. Whether that's knowing your game plan or knowing the things you want to accomplish in life, know your goals. You can't be assertive to go after the things you want if you're not clear on what you want.
Go get it.
That's right. Send it.
Be assertive. Be assertive. It
Spell
doesn't,
that.
it
That's not
doesn't
the-
work as well.
I'm like, shoot, that's not going to go as
That's not going to, no, it's not going to work.
when you start spelling it, it's not going to go great.
We are wound up. I think the coffee kicked in.
Excellent. Thank goodness.
So I feel like that's a great time to transition to our new segment. Is it new? After 3 episodes, is it still new?
Let's consider it new for just one more time. and
Okay,
then
we'll call
next
it new.
time. It'll
next
be old
time
hat.
it'll just be, that's what we do
This
now.
is our segment until we run out of things to say.
Right. Let's talk about an IBJJF rule.
Okay. This one is if you place first, second, or third, you do have to hit the podium. In other words, you have to get on the podium and get your medal.
Now you don't have to go punch it.
You don't have to punch it. No.
Okay.
You do have to go get your medal, though, along with everyone else in your division that has placed. They're going to take a picture. If you do not go to the podium for your medal, you can be suspended from the federation for like a year.
Yikes.
Yeah. So if you lost your match and you're throwing a fit or whatever, you didn't get first place or whatever, you still have to clean yourself up and go get on the podium, and you have to do it in uniform.
Okay.
So you can't just show up in your sweats and t-shirt. You still have to be in your gi or your no gi outfit.
All right. Make a note of it, friends.
Yeah.
In episode 210, we are doing a Q&A episode. We haven't done one for a while.
In a really long time.
It's probably been years.
Yeah. I bet you're right.
So we want to hear your questions. You can DM us at Beauty in the Gi Podcast on Instagram. I'm also hanging out there at Brassy Broad Jen. Or you can leave comments and questions if you're watching this on Spotify or in YouTube.
Yeah. I'm AJ Klingerman everywhere you go. You're welcome to DM me as well. And I'm roll_model on TikTok as long as it exists.
Oh, and if you want to be anonymous in your question, just let us know.
Yes. And let us know that it is for the Ask Us Anything episode.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, we'll just answer your question and not think about it.
Thank you for clearly and assertively making that known.
Yes.
Appreciate it. All right, friends, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the mat.
What are we in?
Beauty in the Gi is a production of the Brassy Broadcasting Company.
And brought to you by Role Model Grappling.